Good evening, guys. Hope everything's going well for you. We're getting ready to start our our fifth week, fourth week, fifth week. Time's moving. I think week four. So just wanted to say how happy I am with how you guys are doing things. I think your discussion boards are going really well. The assignments you guys are submitting are very thoroughly done, and I really appreciate that. I have put a lot of work into preparing for this course. Getting it to where it is. PE falls under the science realm at Hack, and they hold us to a very high standard when we put these courses together in terms of the content that we put into them. So, if I do have one thing that I would like to address quickly, it's the due date issue. The assignments are due the Sunday after the module opens. Okay, so for instance, this week, the assignments, the module opened Monday, the 12th. So all the assignments for this week are due by the 18th. The discussion is still due on Wednesday for the initial post, and then 2 follow-up posts. Okay, some of you are forgetting, are losing very easy points because you're not following up with that second person on the discussion board for that week. So please make sure you're doing that. If you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to answer them for you. However, it does get a little frustrating when I cover topics thoroughly, and I still get emails about them. There are, I believe we're down to 92 of you between the 7 sections, and I probably got 25 emails this past week in terms of individuals questioning the quiz grade. And I know that I thoroughly covered that. So, so please make sure that you're following up. So I don't mind answering questions, specific questions. Like I said, the biggest thing is, guys, the other thing, when you're sending me emails, I need to know what section you're in. I don't have all of you. I've only been with you guys for a couple of weeks. I don't have memorized what sections you guys are in yet. So if you send me an email, I need you to include the PE 184, and then there's a dash and a V somewhere, and then followed by either a 08, 09, 10, 11, 12, 13, or 14. And I need you guys to start including that in your emails. One, it will help me get back to you faster because I don't have to search for you to figure out what your question is and how to answer it appropriately. So please make sure you're doing that. All right. But let's dive into our topic for this week, which is cardiorespiratory endurance, which is something that most of you guys are probably very familiar with in terms of how that exercise works with that. Because when we think of exercise and physical activity, we mostly associate it with cardiorespiratory endurance. And cardiorespiratory endurance is simply put, our heart and lungs work efficiently. Okay. Not to sound, pessimistic or anything, but our heart only has so many beats in it. It is a muscle. It is an involuntary muscle, which means we don't have to think about our heart beating. If we're going to type an email, we have to think about what we're going to do with our fingers. Luckily, our heart is not that way. Our heart contracts involuntarily, which means we don't have to say, okay, heart, make sure you're beating now so we can live, so you can get oxygen to my brain. But, and I know some of you nursing students are probably cringing right now that I tried to make that as simplistic as I could, but we're not all you guys are in the medical field, and I want to make this as easy on you as possible. So when we look at the cardiorespiratory system, it's broken down into 2 main systems of the body. One, the cardiovascular system, which simply is the heart and the blood vessels. Then blood vessels are broken down into arteries and veins. Arteries take blood away from the heart. Veins bring blood back to the heart. If we look at the heart itself, the heart is broken down into 4 chambers. There are two atrium on the top, a left and a right, and 2 atrium on the bottom. I'm sorry, a left and a right as well. And the heart is on our left side. Okay, it's not in the center. There is some misconception that's right in the center. It's actually just off to the left of your sternum a little bit. And you can actually feel that down there. Okay, when we look at the respiratory system, it includes the trachea, the bronchioles, the bronchi, the lungs, and the alveoli, which are the little sacs inside the body, inside the lungs themselves, that helps to move oxygen and carbon dioxide in and out of the bloodstream. Okay, so we need the heart to be able to, we need the lungs to bring the oxygen into the body, and we need the heart to be able to pump that oxygenated blood out to the body. Okay, if you really want to know more about what the hearts and lungs does, there's a very extensive definition sheet on page 59, which I'm not going to make you have to know. Okay, if I would make my high school kids know it, but I'm not going to make you have to know it, because again, we don't have the time to go over that. And quite honestly, I could spend hours talking about the cardiorespiratory system, but lucky for all you guys, the video portal that I use to create these only allows me to do videos in 30-minute increments. So you guys got lucky on that one. All right, but when we look at the body and how it uses energy, our body uses energy in 2 ways. It uses energy aerobically and anaerobically. So when it's both needs started with oxygen, it's just what happens after we burn that initial oxygen off. Okay, so if we're going to go through a sprint, believe it or not, our body uses oxygen anaerobically, which means it uses other means to create energy for our muscles. So, and I'm going to say a bad word here, biology. If any of you guys remember Bio 101 or Bio from high school or anything like that, and you covered the Krebs cycle, and ATP goes in, ADP comes out, and all that fun stuff. Okay, well, that's how our body uses energy anaerobically. So that's more of a sprint. For us, though, our concern is using oxygen aerobically. So that means we use oxygen extensively for our workouts. Okay, so for those of you that are walking as part of the exercise for this course, you are using a body system aerobically. Okay, so that's important to remember. The table on the top of 61, table 3.1, explains that very well. But for you guys, as far as we're concerned, what are the benefits for us in this class cardiovascularly, cardiorespiratory, endurance-wise? Okay, and you can see on 63, there's a very nice list there of what the immediate effects are and long-term. Okay, so our body only has so many beats in it, our heart. Okay, and one of the things that we are looking to do when we are working out is we want our heart to pump more efficiently. So if we're going to do anything more efficiently, means it does more work with less energy. So our goal is, with cardiorespiratory endurance, is to have our heart beat oxygenated blood to the body in a more efficient manner. So every thump of the ventricles pumps more oxygenated blood out into the body, which allows our body to then get that oxygenated blood and use it more efficiently. So a normal adult, 18 and over, has a normal heart rate of 60 to 100 beats per minute. Okay. Obviously, when we're working out, we want it to be a little bit over that, which we'll go over here in a couple weeks, as far as how we're going to figure out, and we might even cover it in this chapter briefly, is how to figure out your target heart rates for working out. So that's the ultimate goal of what we're looking to do as we move forward with our work with our workouts. Okay. One thing that it does is it reduces cardiovascular disease. Obviously, it helps reduce cancer, type 2 diabetes. It helps with obesity. That's something that's important also. Okay, helps to increase our immune system. So when I want you all to practice on checking your pulse. That's important. That's going to be something that we're going to be. It's going to be important for you guys to be able to do that. You can either do it in your neck, which is in your carotid, or you can do it down on your wrist. Okay, on your thumb side. Okay, you have your radial pulse. You don't want to push too hard because you'll collapse that vein. Okay, you want to put just gentle pressure. You should be able to feel it. It's going to be easier for you to do it that way because if you wear a watch or anything on your wrist, you can time it. Okay, most people time it for 15 seconds and multiply it by 4. That works. It's not very accurate. I would highly suggest if you have the time to do it for a full 60 seconds. It will give you a true representation of what your pulse is. Um, and most medical professions accept that as the norm. Okay, so monitoring your heart rate is something that's very important as well. In this chapter, we are going to, this is another example of how to appropriately use the FIT principle. I cannot tell you enough that you will use the FIT principle again on your final, and you must pick a type of workout to be able to do that. So right now we've covered cardiorespiratory. We're going to cover flexibility, muscle strength, muscle endurance, and those are the types of things that we need to work on as we move forward in terms of adapting them to the FIT principle. Okay, so that's something that's very important. All right. Again, so on page 70, okay, we are going to cover briefly how to check your how to determine, what your maximum heart rate is. Okay, so on page 70, you will see target heart rate zones. Down at the bottom, you'll see a formula. Okay, so it's number 2. Multiply your maximum heart rate by 65% and 90% to calculate your target heart rate. Very unfit people should use 55% of maximum MHR, which means maximum heart rate, for their training threshold. Okay, so what I want you to do, and I'm going to warn you again, you will see this on the final, and I know I'm not an English teacher. I'm also not a math teacher. However, I am going to ask you that you show this work on your final. Okay, so you're going to take 220, okay, 220, 220 minus your age. Okay, that will give you a number. All right, so for me, I'm 38 years old. So 220 minus 38 would be 182. Okay, so 182 is my maximum heart rate. So if I'm working out at 100%, which we never want to work out at 100%, we don't really want to go over 90, 95 if we're fairly fit. I am not, so I don't want to go over 90. Okay, so then what we're going to do is we're going to take, so in my instance, I'm going to take my 182, multiply it by 0.65 or by 65%. Now, for you math people, we will not round down. You must round up to the nearest full beat. Okay, so let's say you take 182 and your answer is 122.2. All right, we can't round that down to 122 because that's less than 65%. So we have to round that up to 123. So let's say our range is 123 to 165. All right, so that's our range from 60 to 90. So on your final, one of the things we're going to require you to do is figure out what your maximum heart rate is. That's going to be something that's going to be beneficial to you this week as well. Okay, so I want you to work on that. If you have questions, email me. Are there other methods out there for determining it? Yes, there are. However, this is in the book. It's a very simplistic way of doing this. You have a reference to use. Again, that's on page 70. Just use that, and that will help you out. Okay? All right? Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask with that. All right? This could not have come up at a better time with the way the heat has been this week. Please make sure when you're exercising that you are hydrating. Okay? I think last week's video covered how to figure out how much water you need in a week. So you want to take your weight, divide it by 2. That's how much you will need in water in ounces per day. If you're working outside a lot, please make sure you're staying hydrated. One of the things, please avoid, you're all adults. I'm going to respect your opinion to know your bodies. However, it is important to keep in mind that caffeine, so coffee, sodas, iced teas, is a diuretic. So that will actually dehydrate you. Okay, so if you're one of those people, and unfortunately, I'm one of those people as well. I would much rather have a nice cold glass of iced tea than I would a nice cold glass of water. However, that the caffeine in the beverage will dehydrate you. Another thing to keep in mind for those of you that are of age and it is the summer, alcohol is also a diuretic that will also dehydrate you as well. So that's something to keep in mind. As we're moving forward, especially with the hot weather. So please make sure you're hydrated. An easy way to determine that, and this may gross some of you out, but however, this is the easiest way to do it. If your urine looks like water, you're in pretty good shape. If your urine looks like Mountain Dew, you need to drink more water. Okay, so hopefully you're haven't just eaten before since then, but that's an easy way to determine your hydration level by unfortunately looking at your urine. All right, so I know some of you guys have emailed me with questions this week regarding the exercises at the back of the book. So let me get to that real quick, and I will go over with you what kind of my expectations are for this, okay? Now, I am not going to ask you to do anything that you do not have access to, okay? So you should all be able to do the 1 mile walk test, even if you need to drive around and figure out how far a mile is. So I would like you to do that. I would like you to determine your determining maximal oxygen consumption. I like you to do that too. You should be able to do the 3-minute step test. If you do it on a staircase, that should be fine. There are metronome apps out there that you can download quickly to be able to determine that. If you're able, the more you're able to do, the better, please. It will give you a truer representation. But if you could do the 1 mile walk test, okay, the 1 mile walk test and the 3-minute step test, and let me see what else. And if we could get those done, I think those would be a benefit. And then take that information and figure out your cardiovascular fitness on page 90. Okay. There's most of this stuff. You do not have to worry about the swim test, as that is not something that you have access to. If you do have access to a pool and you can do it, by all means, do it. And we'll go from there. Okay. But, you guys should be able to complete the entire, minus the swimming test, the entire lab for 3.1. Okay, so I'd really and then submit that to the Dropbox. Okay. One quick thing, I'm going to say this really fast. I have a high level of concern with how many of my videos are being watched. So I'm going to run a little incentive this week. If you've made it this far in the video, congratulations. You get an easier week coming up here. If you send me an email on Friday, it must be postmarked Friday, in the subject. Okay, this is very important. Everything must be the correct way. In the subject, you must include your name, PE 184-V, and your section. It must be that in the subject. In the body of the email, send me the word penguins. Okay, send me the word penguins because they won the Stanley Cup. Okay, send me the word penguins. I will email you back with what your prize is for the week. Okay, thanks guys. Have a great night.